You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
We believe in the American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag because we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. We never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can. We're Americans.
This is Rio of Madison Rising, and you're listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening, everybody. It is great to be back from vacation with you. I had a nice week off. I hope you did too. We got a lot to do tonight. Wow. Okay. First of all, programming reminder. After me tonight is Jesse's POV. Rick, do we have anything after Jesse yet?
Nope, we're just going to run her again.
Okay. Then a gap. Then you get America Off the Rails with Rowdy Rick. So it is still the trifecta of conservative talk. Do yourself a favor and stay tuned right here to KLRN Radio all night tonight. Come on. It's all reruns on TV, and Wednesday night sucked anyway, so it's even worse with reruns. Do yourself a favor. Stay right here. Okay. Now to the unscripted portion of the show, which might end up being a whole lot of the show after today. Before we hit the biggies, let's hit some small ones, okay? What's going on? What is going on? We have disability applications plunging as the economy gets stronger. This is a good thing. Remember how Obama told everybody when you stay on unemployment long enough and you run out of your benefits, go and claim disability for mental anguish? Yeah, no. That crap is ending. The disability applications are decreasing rapidly. We have 95% of the country's manufacturers who are bullish on the future. That is a record number for optimism in the manufacturing sector. We have millennials moving out of mom and dad's basements and spare rooms and whatever. Oh my God, it's like some of them are starting to grow up. We do have a problem, though, with Americans still not saving. We still have a huge chunk of the population that doesn't have a $1,000 reserve in the bank to cover an emergency. One of the other things I saw, let's see. This was great. There is a billboard in Texas, and I never heard back from him because I asked. But he's busy too. But I'm still not convinced that this is not Jesse Kelly's billboard that tells liberals to keep driving until you've left the great state of Texas. It would be so perfect. Okay, so that takes care of a lot of the little stuff. Let's get into some of the bigger stuff that's not scripted. Today on Twitter, there was a display of supreme jackassery, and I'm trying to keep myself PG-13 here because I am still so irate about this. Limited talent actor Peter Fonda made it his business to put out a few tweets today. And I'm going to read them to you here as much as I can. Here he's talking about the ICE agents, okay, immigration customs agents. He says, we don't have to take their kids. We only need to surround their schools and scare the crap out of them and worry the hell out of the agents from CBE, ICE, and regular Border Patrol. We need to scare the F out of them. We need to make their children worry now. That was one of them. One of the others. We should rip Barron Trump from his mother's arms and put him in a cage with pedophiles and see if mother will stand up against the giant a-hole she is married to. 90 million people in the streets on the same weekend in the country. Again, completely unhinged jackassery. Here he says, we should hack this system, get the addresses of the ICE agents, CBP agents, and surround their homes in protest. We should find out what schools their children go to and surround the schools in protest. These agents are doing this because they want to do it. They like doing this. He also went on to call for DHS Secretary Nielsen to be jailed and raped. And I don't know if he actually thought better of his tweets later and deleted a few of them. I don't know if Twitter directed him to do so. The outrage was plentiful. There were so many people enraged that he had violated the terms of service with open threats like that. Basically, acts of terrorism is what it is. And received no kind of punishment. But we all know that that's because Jack Dorsey at Twitter is a huge leftist. And Peter Fonda thinks more like Jack than he does us. Neither one of them thinks rationally. But Jack protects the irrational leftists on Twitter, especially those with the blue check marks. We know this because we've seen them violate the published terms of service on Twitter while our friends get suspended for making Tide Pod jokes. Now, earlier today, I put a tweet out to Jack and to Del Harvey and to Mr. Donut and to several others that are higher up in the Twitter hierarchy, and I asked them for an interview. They won't reply. I don't expect them to reply, but I would like for them to. If they accepted, that would just be phenomenal. I think that coming on to a grassroots program and making a stand and explaining why you think it's okay to violate your own published terms of service and have a protected class of Twitter users is okay, but turn around and burn people completely to the ground for much lesser offenses. And I think, quite frankly, that coming onto a grassroots program like mine would lend credibility to them because they're going to get the hard questions. They're not going to get mainstream media type softballs lobbed across the plate for them to smash. Now, again, don't expect them to do it. Don't even expect them to reply. But it's out there. It's done. And I wait. Now, more craziness today. Still unscripted. President Trump signed an executive order to end the separation of families at the border. Now, you have to understand something here. They begged President Trump to sign an executive order. These are the same people that accuse him of being, quote unquote, literally Hitler, quote unquote, authoritarian, quote unquote, a dictator. They're begging him to bypass legally binding, lawful legislation from the legislative branch of government to do this. Why did they beg him to do this? I'll tell you why. It's so they can kick the can down the road again. The law that Trump is following here, or that Trump is having enforced here, is a law that went into effect in 2002. Under the Obama administration, these children were kept in cages. Not so now. So the president signed this executive order after previously saying that only Congress can end his administration's policy of separating families at the border. He signs the executive order that will keep migrant families together during detention at the border. Now, there was an uproar, and look, okay, I'm not one for hashtag diplomacy. I like playing the little hashtag games on Twitter. They're fun. I get involved with them. We had a great one going this afternoon. My friend Lizzie was doing Fonda a movie after the fiasco today with Peter Fonda. You should hashtag that and jump in and join the fun. But Trump said that he will not end the administration's zero-tolerance policy of criminally prosecuting every adult who crosses U.S. borders illegally, including those seeking asylum. The White House will keep pressure on Congress to pass legislation that meets Trump's goals of halting the separation practice, funding his proposed border wall, and limiting legal immigration, something that the president has the right to do already anyway, but he's putting the ball in Congress's court. So much for authoritarian, so much for dictator, right? I mean, so much for literally Hitler. So he went on to say, we're keeping families together and this will solve that problem. At the same time, we're keeping a very powerful border and there continues to be zero tolerance. Now, it was not immediately clear on Wednesday what would happen to the children already separated from their parents. The order did not appear to address how the government would go about reuniting families. I would assume that it would be under the same circumstances as normal, because they do get reunited. We don't just hold children indefinitely into adulthood and turn them loose. Reuters later reported that House Republicans, briefed on the order by Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, worried the measure would not prevent family separation detentions longer than 20 days. So here's exactly what is in the executive order and what it will do. And this is according to the text circulated by the White House. It orders Nielsen, to the extent permitted by law and subject to the availability of appropriations, to keep families together during criminal proceedings. The measure says the administration does not have to keep families together when there is a concern that detaining a child with a parent would pose a risk to the child's welfare. It directs Attorney General Jeff Sessions to file a request with a federal district court in California to change a legal settlement that curbs the government's ability to keep children in detention. It also orders Sessions to prioritize criminal proceedings for cases involving families. So the House is apparently still planning to vote on GOP-crafted immigration legislation that would enact stricter border security measures and offer a path to citizenship for young immigrants brought to the U.S. illegally as children. So basically the GOP is going to renege on the promises that they made in the last election. Okay, so by signing this order, Trump may have also taken political pressure off of Democrats. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer signaled he would be reluctant to support legislation at the end of, or to end the policy, because Trump had the ability to halt it himself. Now, understand that they are still not happy. They do not like the fact that Trump used an executive order. Kamala Harris has already taken to social media and is berating Trump over this decision. So what do you do? I mean, you can't, as president, there's no avenue he can take that wins. It doesn't matter what he does. The Democrats are complaining. They beg him to sign an executive order. He signs it. Then they're mad about him signing an executive order. They won't legislate. They won't do their job. They just want to complain. They want political grandstanding. They want one-upsmanship. They want issues for the midterms, and it's getting taken away from them, and they don't like it. Now, part of the other thing that I wanted to talk about too was how ridiculous people have gotten. If you're not following my friend Mo on Twitter, you should. She's brilliant. She did a little thread the other day talking about how things have gotten out of hand between people, and not just on Twitter, but just in everyday life. People, we are all, every single one of us, more than our politics. We are losing ourselves, losing our civility. We're losing the ability to reason with one another because of politics. If we can't have open discourse and debate over policy, how are we ever going to do it with anything else? Mo, I know you're not listening tonight, but you're brilliant, and your brain should be enshrined because that's just how great you are. Let's see. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get into the scripted portion of the show. So bear with me a second. Let me bring my notes up. Turns out that the previous administration placed an unknown number of Central American migrant children into the custody of human traffickers after neglecting to run the most basic checks on these so-called caregivers. And this is part of the bigger issue of what's going on at the border now. We don't know who these children are coming across the border with. We can't confirm that they actually are family members. They could be traffickers. They could be coyotes just smuggling the children. In the fall of 2013, tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors traveled to the U.S.'s southern border in flight from poverty and gang violence in Central America. We know for a fact that at least 6 of those children were eventually resettled on an egg farm in Marion, Ohio, where their quote-unquote sponsors forced them to work 12 hours a day under threats of death. Local law enforcement uncovered the operation last year, prompting the Senate's Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations to open an inquiry into the federal government's handling of migrants. This kind of thing is intolerable, that human trafficking, modern-day slavery, could occur in our own backyard, said Senator Rob Portman, Republican from Ohio, literally in his backyard. But what makes the Marion cases even more alarming is that a United States government agency was responsible for delivering some of the victims into the hands of their very abusers. As detention centers became incapable of housing the massive influx of migrants, the Department of Health and Human Services started placing children into the care of sponsors who would oversee the minors until their bids for refugee status could be reviewed. In many cases, officials failed to confirm whether the adults volunteering for this task were actually relatives or good Samaritans and not unscrupulous egg farmers and child molesters. The department performed check-in visits at caretaker homes in only 5% of the cases between 2013 and 2015. 5%. The Senate's investigation, built on an Associated Press report that found more than 24 unaccompanied children were placed in homes where they were sexually abused, starved, or forced into slave labor. This is just what the AP found, okay? HHS claimed that it lacked the funds and authority that a more rigorous screening process would have required. So they just, because we lack the funding, just, oh, well, that's how it was. However, the investigation also found that Health and Human Services did not spend all of the money allocated to it for handling the crisis. The agency placed 90,000 migrant children into sponsor care between 2013 and 2015. Exactly how many of those fell prey to traffickers, slaving, molesters, abusers, it's unknown, because the agency only kept track of 5% of 90,000. So keep that in mind as you're mulling over this, this issue is so complex. And I go back to my take earlier. I told you I like the hashtags. I don't believe in hashtag diplomacy, though. But the hashtag the other day, keep families together, I agree with. We should keep them together in their country of origin. This is the country they're used to. It's what they're acclimated to. They can speak the language. They already know people there. We can keep them there while we vet the people and their claims for asylum. It's really the thing to do to manage this crisis. We already have military or government assets in most of these parts of the world. Let's put them to use. Okay? Let's put them to use. We can erect tent cities. The government has temper tents. I don't know if you people are used to those or know what those are or not, but they are tents that are able to be climate controlled. We've had them since the 90s. I know this because I used one when I was in the military, and I left the military in 1995. So we have these great things. Let's put them to use. All right. So we are at the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the scripted portion of the show. Do yourself a favor. Stay tuned.
Oh, but ain't that America for you and me? Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Oh, but ain't that America? For you and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free. Yeah.
All right, welcome back. A little quick programming reminder coming up following my show is Jesse's POV. Then you get a 1 hour break, get your dessert in, your little snack, and then come back in time for Rowdy Rick Robinson with America Off the Rails. It is your trifecta of conservative talk right here on KLRN Radio. All right, so we left off fresh and clear. We're going to break into this, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. I can't even shake my voice enough. She said that whether illegal aliens suppress the wages of U.S. workers is not the point, and that using language like illegal aliens was not constructive. I guess she kind of likes Peter Fonda's language better, maybe. So at a press conference last week, Pelosi was asked, yesterday you outlined your plan to get a better deal for American workers. Does permitting illegal aliens to enter the United States and work here suppress the wages of American workers? Now, before we get to her reply, the answer is yes, it does suppress wages for American workers. Okay, so but then Pelosi answered, that's not the point. Using terminology like illegal aliens and illegally entering the country is just not viewed as constructive. The fact is that we must protect our borders. That is our responsibility. Really? She said that. We must also protect our values. That's our responsibility as well, she said. And we do believe that there can be a bipartisan way for us to come together to honor the values of our country and recognize that newcomers to our country are frequently the constant reinvigoration of America. Now, look, I get it, okay? I get the desire to come to America. I really do. It's something I got to grow up hearing a lot about from my grandparents who were both immigrants. And actually, I had one who came from immigrants, two that were immigrants, and one that was a Native American. How about that? So anyway, I do understand the desire. But there is a balancing act. And this is what our country was so good at before, in balancing. Okay? So, as the song says, they passed a law in 64 to give those who ain't got a little more. Okay? So what happened is when they passed welfare, people started learning how to game the system. And I don't mean just immigrants. I'm talking about citizens too. Legislators, especially on the liberal side of the House, found ways to make getting welfare easier for people. Bit by bit, piece by piece, over the years, over the decades, they built America into this great welfare machine that it is today. And it is crippling us. It is absolutely crippling us financially as a country. And you say, how can that be? Okay, let's think about, let's be nice. Let's be nice. Let's say that 75% of the people that receive some form of welfare are in legitimate need of it. Okay, estimates are that number is closer to 50%, but let's just say 75% of the people in this country that receive some form of welfare are legit. That means 25% of the people receiving welfare in this country are gaming the system. Now, do you have any idea how many people receive welfare in our country? I didn't think so. Okay? It's about 100 million people. So now we're talking 25 million people across the country every month getting checks from the government that are paid for by yours and my tax dollars, gaming the system. Now let's factor in illegal immigration into the welfare picture. Okay? Because there are types of welfare that they are allowed to collect. We don't know how many are actually getting them because the government is that poor at keeping records. But we do know that the estimate between indigent medical care for illegals, free food at schools for illegals' children, what we're paying into education to help educate their children, the welfare that they do receive, medical care that they receive, it all comes into a tidy sum of right at $120 billion with a B dollars per year. $120 billion per year right now to care for illegal immigrants in this country. Now, that does not cover the shelters that we're erecting at the border, the people that we're having to hire to hear these cases in an expedited manner, I should say. None of that, none of what is going on at the border expenditure-wise even factors into that. So we don't even know how much money that is yet. We're having to build more shelters. We're going to have to build family shelters now with this new executive order. The lunacy, folks, never ends. The liberals just say, oh, well, we'll just raise taxes. No, that is not the answer. And forgive me for going off on a little rant like that, but we'll get back to Pelosi's answer here in just a second. She said these people are bringing their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations, their optimism, their courage, their determination to make the future better for their families. And those are American traits. And in doing so, these newcomers make America more American. No, they don't. You know what makes America more American? Is when immigrants come legally, following the processes of our immigration laws, and they come in and they go to work and support themselves like my grandparents did. That's what makes America more American. Not people coming here with their hand out to get free houses and welfare checks and SNAP benefits and free school for their kids and whatever the hell else that people like Nancy Pelosi can think to heave at them as a benefit. She said House Democrats released a plan yesterday to provide a better deal for American workers. The plan aims to address inequality by giving workers freedom to join unions and negotiate collectively. Okay. In addition, the plan hopes to pave the way for Americans to higher wages, better health care, safe working conditions, and stronger retirement security. We shall see. There was a reason that Chavez hated illegals. And that's, just part of it. So, let's see. All right. We're going to skip that for a minute. I've got something I really wanted to hit on tonight, and I've just got to find where I buried it. Okay. No, that is not it. Bear with me just a second as I skim through my notes here. Here it is. Okay. Now, everybody was just foaming at the mouth over Trump meeting with Kim Jong-un. Okay. They said Trump doesn't know anything about diplomacy. He shouldn't be doing this. He's an amateur, blah, 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 blah. Okay. We've got North Korea in the process of denuclearizing. And what we get yesterday out of the blue is that North Korea is preparing to deliver as many as 200 sets of remains of American soldiers from the Korean War. Now, there are no details that have been released just yet as to how the remains may be transferred. It could be that a U.S. official receives them at the DMZ between North and South Korea. Another option may be for an envoy to travel to North Korea, to Pyongyang, and retrieve the remains and courier them back via plane to the United States. President Trump said after the nuclear summit with North Korea that the reclusive nation would return the remains of fallen service members to the United States as part of the agreement struck between the two leaders. The agency tasked with recovering missing members of the U.S. military who are listed as prisoners of war or missing in action said it has not received any guidance on the North Korean matter. We're standing by, but they have not officially been asked to do anything yet, said Defense POW-MIA Accounting Agency spokesman Chuck Pritchard. The Singapore summit was set up to put a stop to North Korea's nuclear weapons program and denuclear the entire Korean peninsula. Trump confirmed that Kim is willing to give up his nuclear weapons and that he also capitulated to returning these remains. Now, folks, you may not understand what a big deal this is, but to a military family, this is everything. For people that have been waiting since the end of the Korean War, this is closure. This is being able to bury a loved one with respect, being able to mourn them properly, knowing that they are home, to give them the honor that they deserve for the sacrifices that they made. To these families who are going to be notified eventually that these are their loved ones, my prayers are with you, because this cannot be easy. All right. One of the last things, well, maybe not the last, but one of the last things we're going to talk about tonight. Seems that you might recall, if you've listened to this program for any amount of time, that I have been an anti-Obamacare person since the proposal of the law. Yeah, I've been on the air that long now. It's sad, Rick. We're getting to be old.
You resemble that remark, sir.
Yes, you're right. I do resemble that remark. Look, readers might recall, or listeners might recall, that back in 2012, the Supreme Court of the United States upheld the constitutionality of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. Excuse me. Also known as Obamacare. This was a 5-4 vote in a case captioned NFIB v. Sebelius. Last year, Congress revised Obamacare. In the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, Congress eliminated the penalty imposed on people who do not purchase health insurance by reducing the penalty to $0 effective January of 2019. Now, what makes the 2017 law interesting for present purposes is this. In that 2012 decision from the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roberts wrote the controlling opinion and concluded that the Obamacare penalty can be characterized as a tax, and he decided that so viewed, Obamacare was a constitutional exercise of Congress's power to raise taxes. Now, enter the state of Texas in February of this year. Texas and several other states filed a lawsuit alleging that by reducing the Obamacare tax to $0, Congress eliminated the only basis on which the Supreme Court had upheld the constitutionality of Obamacare. So basically what they're saying is that if a tax generates, that a tax has to generate a revenue in order to be a tax. So Texas argued that beginning in January of 2019, Obamacare will no longer do so. Accordingly, concluded Texas, starting next year, Obamacare can no longer be upheld as a lawful exercise of Congress's taxing power, so the federal courts would then have to hold the law unconstitutional. The possibility that Obamacare could yet be consigned to the ash heap delighted many and troubled some others. My opinion on the matter is it should have never made it into legislation, let alone signed into law. I think it's been a piece of trash since the beginning. It's been nothing but trouble. Recently, the Department of Justice filed its answer to the Texas complaint. In it, the department agreed with the plaintiffs that Obamacare will become unconstitutional once the individual mandate penalty effectively disappears next year. The Justice Department believes that, as a result, several provisions of Obamacare must go, such as the requirement that insurance companies provide coverage to some with a pre-existing condition. But the Justice Department thinks that the rest of the statute can stand. Now, Texas disagrees, and it's arguing that Obamacare statutes or that the Obamacare statute is like the base in Jenga. Once you remove the critical elements, the entire superstructure falls apart. So what happens now? Here's what might happen, okay? So the district court is likely to act without delay. And why, you ask? Well, there are no facts in dispute. At most, 2 legal issues only. Is Texas right that Obamacare can no longer be upheld as a lawful exercise of Congress's taxing power? If no, game over. If yes, then is Texas also right that the unconstitutional portion or portions of the law cannot be severed from the remainder without leaving Obamacare a jumble of words that makes no sense? Those issues may be difficult to resolve legally, but there is no need for a trial over the facts. Plus, the district court knows that in all likelihood, the Supreme Court will ultimately have to resolve this dispute, and that the closer it gets to January 2019, the more attention there will be on the effect of eliminating the quote-unquote tax on the insurance markets. The Supreme Court will need to decide this issue because of the odd way that it upheld the constitutionality of Obamacare in the case of NFIB v. Sebelius. 4 justices concluded that Obamacare was a lawful regulation of commerce, and 4 disagreed. Roberts was the 5th vote to uphold Obamacare, but he decided that the health care law could be upheld as a tax, not as a regulation of commerce. The result was that 5 justices found the law constitutional, but they disagreed about why it was constitutional. Given the odd nature of the court's lineup in NFIB v. Sebelius and the pending disappearance of the tax, it is incumbent on the Supreme Court to take up this issue once again and come up with a majority opinion that puts the matter to rest. Once the district court issues its decision, it is possible for one or more parties to ask the Supreme Court to review the case even before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit does. Now, one of the parties could file in the Supreme Court what is known as a petition for a writ of certiorari. Certiorari, I can't even pronounce it. I need a legal mind to pronounce these things. That's not me. A certiorari before judgment, a mechanism that allows a party to leapfrog over the appeals court and go directly to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court does not have to grant such a petition, and it prefers to have at least one appeals court review an issue before taking it up. Because it likes the help that comes with having 3 circuit judges write about a problem. But it may not take much of a difference because the Court of Appeals is also likely to act expeditiously. So regardless of how the case reaches the Supreme Court, it will reach the Supreme Court, and they will revisit the constitutionality of the Obamacare Act this fall, most likely. With luck, the whole matter will be resolved by the end of this calendar year. So do yourself a favor and stay tuned. And with that, we are back to the top of the hour, folks. It has been a pleasure being back with you. I am undecided on a show for next week. As of right now, my summer hours are brutal, so I will let you know as soon as I know. But if you like the show, please tell your friends. If your friends like the show, you need new friends. But they and you are welcome right here with me every week on KLRN Radio for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. I'm your host, The Grouch. God bless. Peace out.
But ain't that America? You and me, ain't that America? Something to say.
I hate this place. Nothing works here. The medications don't work. I've been here for 7 years.